Oh, okay, we've got some people on. Let me know if you can hear me alright. Star Wars Rue is here, Dr. Andy is here, getting some of the old crowd here. It's been a while, been a long while. The Dabbing King is back. Okay, we're getting a few people coming on, slowly but surely. How you doing, Eli? Lord Bark. Yeah, this is just something haphazard. I was working on a few videos. I was doing a bit of recording, a bit of stuff for the second channel as well. I don't know if a lot of you guys know, but I started a second channel called Cine Ranta Uncut, where I'm trying to make trying to kind of delve out away from gangster movie stuff and crime cinema and talk about other things here and there. Check it out if you want. And so, everybody in the household is asleep, I think. So I got a bit of peace and quiet to myself, and I just thought, oh, okay, I'll do a live stream like I used to do back in the old days. I don't think I've done one in more than a year now. Okay, you can hardly hear me. Let me see if I can turn the volume up a little bit. Hello, Alex Burr. Eli, yeah, I'm good, brother. Thank you very much. How you doing? Guana. Mjada, how you doing? Hello. Yeah, Star Wars Rule. I haven't really advertised the second channel because there's not a lot on it. It's a few book reviews. I think I did a video on The Shining a while back. I did just record a video about what I think is the most disturbing scene in Martin Scorsese's filmography, and just a general discussion on violence in Scorsese's movies and how it's changed from the more visceral violence of Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, and how it's more muted in films like Silence and The Irishman. And that video is not going to be on the main channel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a few videos on the second channel, and then maybe when I've got a decent backlog, I'll put a community post out and let you guys know that there's a second channel. But that channel is live, up and running, and there's a few videos on there if you want to see it. Hello, Mr. Azad. Eli Whaley saying, I was at your last live stream. Yeah, it was over a year ago. Yeah, I would like to do it more often. I enjoy these. I have a lot of fun with these. But it's just, there's a lot of noise in the house, the kids running around and whatnot, and it's difficult to find a time to actually be able to do it without getting distracted by things around us. Star Wars Roost says, the most disturbing scene, the clamp eyeball. Oh, interestingly, funny enough, you mentioned that. I've just finished recording it, and I never mentioned the eyeball popping scene from Casino. I did mention the cornfield beatdown. I found that more disturbing. But you're going to be surprised with my pick. It's not the Billy Bats beatdown. It's not the shootout in Taxi Driver. It's not any scene in Raging Bull. It's not from Casino. Casino has a lot of violent scenes. It's not from Gangs of New York. You're going to be really surprised by my pick. But it's not a clickbait video. It's not something that I'm trying to, just get attention with. It's genuine. I was really disturbed by this when I watched it, and it was on my mind for years, and I just thought, you know what, why don't I just make a video on it? But yeah, it's going to be fun to see what people's reactions are to that video. Hello, Qwerty, followed by a bunch of numbers. Adam James says, I really am a funny guy. Well, I hope so. I try to be. I notice a lot of audiences, they do notice those little lines I slip into my videos, quotes from shows and movies and stuff, and it's great that people recognize that. Flon Matt Curtin says, what are the Sopranos videos in the works? So I've been working on a few. I put out quite a few recently, didn't I? There was the Feature one, there was the Johnny Sack calling off the hit. If you want to know what I've got coming up, let me have a look. So let's see my content. I put out a short today, didn't I? On the Coco beatdown, and how Albie was kind of at fault because he mentioned Coco's name. Let's have a look. Sopranos videos. I'm a little bit burnt out because I made a huge amount of Sopranos videos in one go. I'm probably going to take a back step, maybe work on more Wire videos now. But I've got one on Michael Madsen wanting to have a role on the show, but David Chase turned him down. I've got one where I kind of collated the different questions that David Chase answered on the Talking Sopranos podcast about whether Phil was gay, whether Ralph really did burn down the stables, all of these kind of things, and I've shoved them into a little video and a bit of discussion and analysis on that. I've written a few scripts. I can't remember what they were about though. I'd have to check, but I don't have that with me at the moment. But yeah, Sopranos videos, maybe you'll see a little bit of a break from them. There'll be probably one or two, and then it might be something else for a while, because I'm a bit tired now of Sopranos. That happens. This is the way I work, really. What I do is I get into a frame of mind where it's just everything I want to talk about is about The Wire, and I'll pump out a few scripts, and then I'll just be burnt out, and in my head I'm thinking, right, I never want to talk about The Wire ever again. I'm just so tired of this show. And then I move on to the next thing, which is The Sopranos. Then it'll be The Godfather. Then it'll be The Irishman. Then it'll be Goodfellas. And it swings all the way back around, back to The Sopranos. Star Wars Roo says, what do you think about Bringing Out the Dead? One of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies. Subject matter is kind of bleak. I really like Bringing Out the Dead. I think it's quite underrated. Among Scorsese's filmography, it gets kind of lost. Not a lot of people talk about it. But I mean, you say bleak, it is very, very bleak. But it's also kind of funny as well, isn't it? I found it hilarious. Some of the banter between the paramedics. From what I hear from real life paramedics, it's actually kind of true to life in terms of the sentiment, the way paramedics feel, nightlife paramedics, and the way their life is, that kind of the constant state of stress and the feeling that nothing will go right for Nicolas Cage's character and all the stuff that happens to him. Apparently it's quite realistic. Not that I know much about it, but I liked Bringing Out the Dead. It'd be great if more people watched it and knew about it. QWERTY says, I am amazed by the number of angles you find to discuss in your videos. I mostly follow The Godfather, The Sopranos, and my favorite show, The Wire. Well, thank you, and that's great news for me because those are the three things I cover. The way. I mean, I get random ideas in my head. Sometimes it's when I'm just walking around and I'm thinking about a scene or a character. Sometimes it's when I'm rewatching something. But, you get these ideas that just kind of pop into your head. And I quickly send myself a little text message just so I remember. And then when I'm near my laptop, I put it on a Word file and I email it to myself. So it's always somewhere. I've got it saved somewhere. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of video ideas. And it's always just a case of getting round to it, really. Mr. Alay says, do you plan on reviewing any new shows? Yeah, I've always got plans in the pipeline. It's just about, finding the time, really. I suppose I should get to work on, trying to do new shows. I have started Fargo. I don't know if you guys have noticed. There's a few videos on Fargo out. The next show is actually Oz, HBO's Oz. A lot of people have been asking me to make videos on that. In the past, I've made the mistake of watching one season of something and then putting out the review, and then a lot of people end up spoiling what happens later on in the comments. So I did something different this time. I've actually seen the whole of Oz, and I've written all my reviews for all 6 seasons, and I've actually written the script to a few videos on Oz, analysis, character analysis, and did this actually happen, or why did this happen, that kind of stuff, the kind of stuff I'm known for. Oz is on its way. That will be the next show. I don't know what I'm doing after that. Gomorrah I've thought about. Succession is something I've had my eye on for a while. That does look like a show I think I might end up liking. I know the writers from 2 British shows, one called The Thick of It and one called the name's gone out of my head, but there's these 2 shows that I really like that were made in the UK, and I know that some of the creators of those shows went and took part in the making and the writing of Succession. So I'm hoping that that'll be a show I like. But you guys let me know, what shows do you want me to work on? What do you think would satisfy my appetite of someone who makes the kind of videos that I make on The Sopranos and The Wire, these kind of shows. As of yet, I've not found a show on the level of The Sopranos or The Wire, in terms of the kind of stuff that I like doing, like the breakdowns and the focus on character motivations and why this happened and what was the deeper meaning behind this. I know a lot of people say Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I preferred Better Call Saul to Breaking Bad. I thought that was the superior show. But I think in the same way that I think Boardwalk Empire suffered for me because I watched it straight after watching The Sopranos, in the same way I think Breaking Bad suffered for me because I watched it straight after watching The Wire. And The Wire kind of ruined television for me for a while because there was nothing that I watched that matched the level of that show. So maybe if I rewatch Breaking Bad, I'd enjoy it a lot more. But I do have video ideas on Breaking Bad. It's just that that show isn't really as popular on my channel as Sopranos and The Wire. Eli Way says, best Sopranos YouTube channel, best takes, you have an understanding of the mob and film. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate those kind words. Have you seen No Country for Old Men, says Fionn McCurtain. I have, yeah, a couple of years back. Let's see. What else do we have? I'm always slow in the chat because I start harping on. So I apologize if you've asked me a question and I haven't got around to it yet. Hello, David S. Cameron. Long time no see. How you doing? Let me just catch up to the chat. Hey, Benny Mac. How you doing? Resistant Quest, how you doing? Steven, how are you doing? Yeah, definitely. I've got loads of videos on the Wire. It's just that at the moment, like I'm just kind of burnt out. But I will definitely be heading. Things will be going full circle, and I'll get back to making videos on the Wire again. Star Wars Rue says this is about bringing out the dead. Yeah, the black comedy elements are hilarious. Ring James' performance is absolutely amazing, and Cage is at his best. Yeah, Ring was brilliant. He really made me laugh. I still remember some of his lines. That when he's doing that thing in the club, the guy he OD'd, and then he starts talking about Jesus and saying "Thank you, Jesus" and all that kind of stuff. And that part about preaching the book and beating your ass when he's talking to Nicolas Cage in the Amnesty fan. He was brilliant. I actually think when he disappears from the film kind of slows down a little. I thought he was the best partner for Cage in the film. How many times have you seen The Wire and The Sopranos? Asks Fionn McCurtain. I don't know. Okay, The Sopranos. I've definitely seen it in its entirety twice. Because I watched it once years back. That was the first time I watched it. And then very recently I did a rewatch just to kind of familiarize myself with it. So I definitely watched it twice. Aside from that, scenes on YouTube, episodes here and there, bits and pieces. There was for the Ralph episode when I made that video, Why You're Wrong About Ralph. I watched the entire episode where he died, things like that, but only in its entirety twice. I may have seen The Wire more than that. The Wire is a kind of show where, while I'm working on different videos, I'll have it on in the background, just keeping my eye on it. And from that, I gain new ideas or I notice something. And so I don't know if I've seen it more or less times in Sopranos. Probably, funnily enough, I've probably seen it more times in Sopranos, just by sheer virtue of it being on in the background and me keeping an eye on certain scenes and whatnot. Deadeye Studio says, ever going to do videos on Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul? I have done a few. Funnily enough, my highest viewed video is actually on Breaking Bad. Why didn't Gus get into the car? There's a few other ones. I did one on Tuco Salamanca and one or two other ones here and there. And I do have video ideas written down, but I don't have any immediate plans to make videos on them because I just don't think a lot of people are interested. There's already bigger YouTubers out there who make videos on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And maybe that's part of it. It's like I'm kind of stepping into other people's territories. I don't know. But I mean, if people wanted it, for sure, I could make more videos on those two shows. Uh, sorry, YMS says, do you think that Killers of the Flower Moon will be as successful as other Scorsese movies? What do you mean by successful? Financially? I mean, if it financially, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Because the budget, they're saying what it costs $200 million. I still don't know where all that money's gone. Even seeing the trailer, yeah, sure, okay, they've got some big actors in there. Those are big paychecks. They've got real sets. They brought in a train. All of the kind of practical stuff costs money. But $200 million. I remember even talking to the guy who played Ed Parton in The Irishman. We were talking about it in the interview I did with him, Craig Vincent, and even he was saying he has no idea where the money's gone in this film. So, but the thing is, because Apple are making it, they probably don't care if it loses money. That's not the objective of them. Just like with Netflix, they want prestige. They want to be in and amongst the Oscar winners and whatnot. And Scorsese is using that. He's utilizing the situation of these streaming companies wanting to muscle in on the film studios. Because otherwise, who would make Killers of the Flower Moon for $200 million? Even The Irishman got rejected before they did all the de-aging CGI stuff. So when it wasn't an expensive film, it was still turned down by the big studios in Hollywood. So in terms of that, probably not a success, but I don't think Apple will care. In terms of the quality of the film, I mean, it'd be a disaster if it wasn't. I mean, the material is all there. I've read the book. The book is brilliant. De Niro's character is a juicy, tasty character to play, as is DiCaprio's. All the ingredients are there. There's no reason why this film should fail. It should be a great film. It should be harrowing. It should be emotional. It should be epic. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it could be a bona fide hit. Let's see. Resistance Quest. Yes, Oz is amazing. Yeah. Oh well. I mean, should I talk about it? Should I not? Should I wait for the reviews to come out? But yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts about Oz. And I've mentioned a lot of them in the reviews. So yeah. Keep an eye out for that. I think I've got maybe one or two more videos left to release on Fargo, and if they don't pick up, if people aren't that interested, I'll probably stop making videos on Fargo, and the next ones to come out will be Oz. Resistance Quest says Peaky Blinders would be neat. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I'm British. I'm from the UK, and Peaky Blinders was huge here. People were talking about it at work. You got the adverts everywhere, and for some reason, it just... Because one of the things about me is I like watching one show at a time. So if I was watching The Wire at that time, or if I was watching The Sopranos, I wouldn't watch Peaky Blinders at the same time. I like to give my full concentration to one series at any given moment. It's one of the reasons why I'm so picky about which TV show I should watch next, because my plan is always to stick with it until the very end. So if it's terrible, then that's bad news for me. But Peaky Blinders was everywhere, and I watched the first... I have reviewed the first season. It's on the channel. I watched the first season. I enjoyed it. I really liked it, especially the character played by the fella from Jurassic Park. I like that kind of angle to it. But I don't know why I never watched the second season. I know that I was actually looking forward more to the second season because I knew Tom Hardy comes along in the second season. I like him as an actor. But you'd think that I would have already seen it, but I haven't yet. I haven't finished it, no. But that is something in the pipeline, not really immediate. I'm not really sure what I'll make videos on next, what I'll watch next. I mentioned this in my final review of Oz of season 6, where I just kind of say, and this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. I want to kind of take a break from watching TV shows again and again, because I did Oz, I did Tulsa King, I did The Wire, I did Better Call Saul. I did quite a few in a short amount of time, and as a result, I've kind of neglected my initial first love, which is movies. For someone who talks so much about films, I hardly ever actually watch them. Just don't get the time. And when I do have time to watch something, it's always me starting a new show for the channel. So I just thought I'll take a bit of a break. And that's what I've been doing for the past month or so. In fact, funnily enough, it's actually given me a new idea for a new set of videos, which is what I was actually doing right now before I started this live stream, which was, it's not going to be on the main channel. It's going to be on the second channel, Cine Rant Uncut, which is basically just a monthly movie review roundup. Every film that I've seen in the past month, I'll just say a few words about them. And I think you'll be surprised at what kind of films you'll see in the reviews. You'll get a taste of what kind of films I'll watch. I watch practically anything. Like, for example, the one I recorded just now, there's a few films from Roger Corman. His 1960s gothic horror film starring Vincent Price and Boris Karloff. There's a few black and white comedies, one with Humphrey Bogart, another with Cary Grant. So these aren't the kind of films that I think a lot of people associate with me. It's kind of funny as well, because in one of my Wire videos, I made a reference to Lord of the Rings, because there's a ring in season 4 of The Wire that gets passed from person to person. And I think I said something like, I'm surprised they don't use the black speech of Mordor. Just a bit of a joke from Lord of the Rings, a bit of a reference. And people mentioned it in the comment section. That I was surprised to hear a Lord of the Rings reference on this channel. But that kind of made me think, oh, okay, so it's interesting that people would think that, because I'm a huge fan of the Middle-earth movies. I've got so much to say about that. But obviously, you get known for a certain thing, and that's what you talk about. But that's why I've started the second channel, to be able to talk more freely, kind of move away from the gangster stuff, which I'll still be doing. There's still always, I've got loads of ideas for Sopranos, Godfather, The Wire, and other stuff like Boardwalk Empire, Carlito's Way, Scarface. So that stuff will be simultaneous. I'll be doing that stuff on the main channel and the non-crime stuff on Cine Rant Uncut. WMS says Barry would be up your alley, I would think. Yeah, I've heard about that show. Ozark, yeah. Fionn McCurtain says maybe revisit Deadwood. Yeah, that's a thought. It's something I've always wanted to do. Go back to Deadwood. I want to make videos on it. I think people want me to make videos on it, but I would have to rewatch it because it's not fresh in my mind. But at the moment where I am, I'm not really in the kind of place to rewatch an old show that I've already seen. I think maybe I'll go for one more new one that I haven't seen, and then maybe I could rewatch Deadwood, because I really enjoyed it. If Deadwood had 5 or 6 seasons, I would think it'd be in the same bracket as The Sopranos and The Wire. It's that good. Its main sin is that it was cut short, and I mean, as good as it was, if his show is 3 seasons, I don't think it's fair to compare it to something like Sopranos or the Wire. But funny enough, right now, because when I'm working on videos, I have things on in the background. The thing that is in the background now for me is Boardwalk Empire. I just finished the first season, and in the first episode of the second season. In my video, Why You're Wrong About Boardwalk Empire, I did mention that I was gonna look to make more videos on this show, and so hence why I'm rewatching it, so it's fresh in my mind. Star Wars Roo says, funny the thick of it did a movie that had James Gandolfini as a general. He was really good in. Yeah, In the Loop. Yeah, I thought the movie's okay. I didn't think it was as good as the show though. But yeah, it was okay, not bad. Let's see. Eli Whaley says you should review Everybody Loves Raymond. It's funny you say lol joking, but would you believe that Everybody Loves Raymond is actually one of my favorite shows? It's one of my comfort shows. I remember coming home from school and just kicking back and watching it. I don't know, I kind of connect with it. I feel I get the characters. I get the overbearing mother-in-law, the absent father, the mollycoddled son, the jealous brother. Maybe it's because I've got elements in my family that I can relate to or something. But I really like Everybody Loves Raymond. It's actually a great show. My favorite sitcom. Mr. Hajay says, I had a co-worker that was an extra in season 1 of The Wire. He was in a pan shot as a defendant when Avon was finally in court. That's interesting. That's pretty cool. Rasmassage says, kind of off topic, but I've been wondering about this forever. What is the audio from your intro? So the laughing one, the one that I have now is from Goodfellas. Um, so you hear Joe Pesci go ping pow pow. It's from a famous scene. And if you just type in on YouTube, Goodfellas funny how, you'll know where my intro is from. Just watch that scene. You'll hear Joe Pesci making those noises, and you hear the late Ray Liotta laughing. The old intro, the one where you hear that screaming, this is from an Ennio Morricone soundtrack for a spaghetti western called Navava Joe. It starts off with this kind of Native American chanting and screaming, and I don't know why, I just kind of took that and I shoved it in my as an intro, and everybody hated it. Back in the old days, back in the old Seniorante days, people are always complaining about my intro, so that's why I ended up changing it. Summer West says 6 Feet Under. Yeah, that's another one that's on my list that I've heard a lot about. Let's see. Larkbark is recommending the film City of Industry. I've heard about that. I haven't seen it though, no. Fionn McCurtain says, what other interests, hobbies do you have outside of analyzing TV and movies? A lot, to be honest. If obviously, I mean, it goes without saying, if you just looked at my channel and you looked at it, you think, okay, this guy's a fanatic when it comes to gangster movies. But I'm a fanatic when it comes to films in general. But it's not my only love. It's not, at this point in my life, perhaps even my main love. I find that I read a lot more than I watch movies. I enjoy reading a lot. And I read a lot of different stuff. What I do is I flip-flop between something fictional and something educational. So I like history. I'm a big fan of history and what's happened in the past. I like philosophy and theology, epistemology, the study of truth, things like this. These kind of deep, interesting topics. These old kind of philosophers like Aristotle, like Ghazali, and all these kind of people. I enjoy reading their kind of works and works that people have done about them and their life. I like sports. Football, soccer for Americans is huge in the UK, and I'm a huge football fan. I support the team Manchester United, and quite a few things here and there. So I'm not just a movie fanatic, even though I am a movie fanatic. There's quite a few different things here and there that I like doing. Let's see. Have you watched the show Gomorrah? Alex Spur says, no, not yet. It is on the list. It might be next on the list. Now that I've finished Oz. Cheese Zeppelin says, I'm really excited for Killers of the Flower Moon. How do you feel about what we got to see in the trailer? I've reviewed both of the trailers on the channel. The first trailer I thought was really good. It set the mood, it set the vibe. Like, this is gonna be a roller coaster of emotions. It's gonna be hard hitting. I wasn't a fan of the second trailer. Like I mentioned, I felt like obviously you have to give it to them, the marketing team. This is their job to market a movie. But it felt like it was almost like a Goodfellas version of the Wild West. The way the trailer was cut. The way it was edited, even the comedic line from DiCaprio talking about money, it just kind of felt like this is not the film that all the critics are describing. Everybody's calling it long, slow, daunting, hard-hitting. The trailer doesn't come across like that. And the reason why it irritates me is because it sells a different film. It's like The Irishman. I had seen the film. When did I see it? I saw it in October, I think it was, and then it was released on Netflix in December or November. But I basically saw it a month before it came out to mass audiences. I managed to get a ticket to an early screening, and the trailers came out. The third trailer came out, and the second trailer came out after I had seen the film. So I'm someone who's seen the film now, and I see the trailer for the film. And even back then, I thought to myself, this trailer sells a completely different movie. It's like Goodfellas. It's fast-paced, and it seemed like Scorsese films of old. And I thought to myself, people are going to be disappointed. They're going to find the film boring. And if they think that they're going to go into a Scorsese film, Scorsese remake, essentially, And that's kind of what happened. A lot of people were turned off by The Irishman because a lot of people thought it was slow and dull. And I think part of that is because of the trailer selling a different film. Who's your favorite character in The Wire, says Benny Mac. I think mine would be Bodhi, loyal soldier to the very end. Oh man, I've got a load of favorite characters. There's so many great characters in The Wire. But I don't want to give you a cop-out answer and say, oh, all of them. For some reason, Proposition Joe tickles my fancy. There's something about the way he looks like a big old cuddly teddy bear. I really like the way he talks. Buy for a dollar, sell for two. And he's so eloquent. And part of it is that charm, because obviously, in a way, it's a front, isn't it? Because he's a vicious killer. There's a scene early on in season 2 where Nick Sabotka comes to talk about the car that Cheese took from Frank Sabotka's son, and at the end, because of the way Prop Joe has acted, the way he hugs Sergey, the way he talks, he makes fun out of his own weight, talks about family issues. He gives the vibe of some kind of old lovable uncle, and then Nick, before he leaves, he says, thanks for being straight on this, something like that. And it shows you how Prop Joe can lure people into a false sense of security. And then he kind of drops the hammer down by saying, fool, if it wasn't for Sergey here, you and your brother would be cadaverous motherfuckers. So that's one of the things I like about Joe, where, it's one thing on the outside, it's another thing on the inside. But he, if I had to pick, my favorite character in The Wire, he might be one of them. I liked Rules. Rules is a character that I think there's a lot of depth there. As I mentioned in my video, Why You're Wrong About Rules. I love Bodhi. Bodhi's one that really grows on you as the series goes on. And then, when season 4 comes around, Bubbles, obviously. Bubbles is another one. Great character. And there's just so many. The Wire is just filled to the brim with fascinating, fully realized 3D characters that feel real. Cheryl R. Lee says, did you ever watch Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown? Could literally rewatch daily. I love it so much. Yes, I did. I love Jackie Brown. I consider it Tarantino's most mature film. Obviously, especially compared to Pulp Fiction, it's quite restrained, but it still has that same style. I actually kind of wish that Tarantino would go back to making those kind of movies. I like his new output, but ever since Kill Bill, it kind of feels like he makes cartoons for adults in a way, if that makes sense. And I just kind of wish that, those crime dramas that he made in the 90s, if you could go back to that just once or twice, that would be so great. I'm quite behind in the chat, so please excuse me if I miss any of your comments. Cheese Zeppelin says, I love Fargo, but I couldn't get into the newest season. The 4th season, you mean? Yeah, funnily enough, I actually enjoyed it. Like I mentioned in my review, I like the whole immigrant thing, that, the Irish come, then the African Americans come, and all that kind of stuff. And the son swapping thing, even though they didn't do much with that. It just felt like a standard kind of season of a gangster drama, with some good side characters like the ones played by Timothy Olyphant, and some really bad casting of the main characters, especially Chris Rock. The 3rd season is better technically, but less enjoyable for me. It's one that you have to analyze, you have to think about the themes and whatnot. Maybe I wasn't in the right mood, but I think part of it is obviously the hype going in. I was prepared to hate season 4 of Fargo because people said loads of bad things about it, and obviously that affects your expectations. If people told me it was a masterpiece and then I watched it, I would have probably been disappointed as well. Resistance Quest says, thanks for answering my question. If there were some films I'd love to see, it's The Drop and Killing Them Softly, the last two James Gandolfini performances. Have I seen them? Yes, I have. And yeah, they were both good films. I enjoyed them both. Yeah, Killing Them Softly was the one where Gandolfini pops up, doesn't it? And he ends up choosing not to do the hit on Ray Liotta's character. He turns Brad Pitt down, doesn't he? And The Drop is the one with Tom Hardy. Yeah, I like both of those films. Those are good films, low key crime films. They're not epics, they're not huge. You can tell the budget is low and they're more character driven. But yeah, those are good films. I enjoy those. It's funny enough, I've seen so many of these films, but I watched them before I started the channel. So even The Sopranos, I never actually reviewed any season of The Sopranos because I think I started watching it before I even started making videos. So I know about all these movies. I've seen all of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But maybe I should have, waited years until I am where I am now because, I guess I can rewatch them. But it's a different experience, isn't it? When the second time you watch a film, third time, the first experience is always different. And it's worth capturing that in a movie review. Have you ever watched The Treasure of Sierra Madre, says Cheese Zeppelin? Yes, I have. The Humphrey Bogart one. The one where they go and... it's the three guys, isn't it? And they go and they find the treasure, and once they get it, they're all suspicious of each other, and they think the other one's out to get them. That's a good movie, a brilliant film about greed. I see There Will Be Blood has been mentioned on the chat quite a few times. In a way, it's a great companion piece to There Will Be Blood. So if you've seen There Will Be Blood, if you like it, check out that film, The Treasure of Sierra Madre, if I'm pronouncing it right. Hello, Antonio Reyes. Antonio says, I love your channel. Thank you very much. Oops, I've accidentally skipped the chat. Just a second. Alex Spur says, wasn't there a Deadwood movie after the show? Yeah, I've reviewed that as well. In fact, I've reviewed all 3 seasons and the movie, but I didn't make any other videos. Even though I'd like to. But again, like I mentioned earlier in the chat, I'd have to watch the show again just to refresh my memory of it. But I like the movie. I thought it was okay, given the circumstances. The creator of Deadwood, he had Alzheimer's, if I remember correctly, so his condition was worsening, and a lot of the actors were aging. And given that Deadwood was cut short, and it was 10 years later, this was kind of like a last-ditch opportunity to get the gang together again and tell a kind of conclusive story. And I think in that regard, it did its job. A lot of people were disappointed with it. But when you look at the Sopranos movie, when you look at the Breaking Bad movie, and when you look at the Deadwood movie, I think the Deadwood movie comes out on top. It's definitely my favorite from the 3. Dex X says, you have a soothing voice, bro. Thank you very much. Comically High says, don't you think it's weird that The Sopranos and The Wire are so rewatchable, but no one feels the need to rewatch Breaking Bad? What do the first 2 have that Breaking Bad doesn't? Well, I'm in the same boat, I think. I kind of feel like that. And I think partly is because, well, as well as the depth, I don't want to annoy anybody by slagging off Breaking Bad, but I think, and it's not slagging Breaking Bad off because, it's no shame to not be as good as The Sopranos or The Wire, but I think the depth and rewatchability of those 2 shows is far more paramount than Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is like a thriller movie. It's a roller coaster. It's, the incentive to watch the next episode is what's going to happen next. How does this storyline end? Where does it go from here? You don't really get that with The Wire or The Sopranos. With the Sopranos, it's more about, the characters, the psychology of Tony Soprano. With The Wire, it's the sociology, it's the city and the bureaucracies and all the things that affect the drug trade and what allows it to flow. So once you see Breaking Bad, I think for the most part, you've got what you needed to get out of the show. Obviously, of course, there's things you can pick up, and there's loads of great iconic scenes that are worth rewatching. But I think after you see it the first time, then it kind of becomes a comfort show where you know what's happening, and you know what's going to happen. But I mean, I don't know. Some of the scenes get a bit dreary once you've seen it. There's a lot of scenes of the family just sitting eating at dinner, which, I don't know. But yeah, I do agree with the notion that The Wire and The Sopranos are more rewatchable than Breaking Bad. Kellen Ball says, "Are you friends with Pure Kino or Sopranos Theories?" I know of them. So Sopranos Theories, I've made a few, well, not a few videos. I've released a few videos, but I interviewed him a while back. Was it? I think it was after The Many Saints of Newark came out. So obviously, I'm aware of other content creators in this niche, and I just was interested in just talking to the guy and seeing what he thought of the movie, because I did an interview with a guy who does videos on The Godfather. So I just thought this will be interesting, be a bit different, a bit of an experience for myself as well, doing an interview, something I don't have a lot of experience with. I don't know Pure Kino though. I don't know much about him. Have you seen the film Bronson based on The Inmate? If so, thoughts? I love Bronson. Bronson's a brilliant film. I love the style, the way it's made. Tom Hardy's never been better than Bronson. He was at his best in Bronson. I'm aware of the real life Bronson story as well. I thought they did justice to it. They obviously chose not to make just a straight laced biography. They really, went balmy with the style, and it worked. I really like Bronson. Bronson's a great film. Walnuts and Bestiality is basically asking, have I done this before? Yes, I've done. The last live stream I did was more than a year ago, and it was never a regular thing. It's always been haphazard. Even today, it's like everybody in my household is asleep, and I was just recording a video. So I thought, you know what? Let me just start a live stream. Let me talk to some guys. Let's see if the old crowd is still around. Can you make a video explaining the physics of how Adebisi's hat always stays on his head? Asks Comically High. Yeah, that probably would make a decent YouTube short. I've shaved my head a few times. I've gone completely bald, even though I usually have long hair. And I think it's just he's even said this, the actor, isn't it? Where it just sticks to his head, because it does stick to your head. Once you like when your hair's so tiny, they become like sharp, like little daggers, and they stick to hats. So I think it's just that. The actor himself said that it just stuck to his head. There was no funky things going on. They didn't put any glue or anything like that. Let's see. Damien Irving is here. How you doing? Snoop had some funny lines. Yeah, Snoop felt like she was authentic, wasn't she? Because Pearson Snoop is literally her name in real life, and she was from Baltimore, and she's even killed a person, the actress, in real life. And I believe she got done for drugs after the show was made. So yeah, she felt authentic because, she was authentic. Walnuts and Bestiality says, in my opinion, Gloria Bergel's story was just so boring in Fargo season 3. I love VM Varga though. Yeah, I kind of agree, because I get, it's one of those, I mentioned this in my review, I get the point of Gloria's storyline. Yeah, it connects with that story about the robot thing, and her having no point and all of that. I get it, I get the point, but it's not necessarily entertaining to watch. She just kind of mopes around a lot. She doesn't have a lot to her storyline that the cops in the first 2 seasons and the Fargo movie had. And like you say, VM Varga's so charismatic, so enigmatic, so well played, so mysterious, and he's a great character. Let's see. Have you ever watched Killing Joe? No, I haven't. Let's see. Any info on if The Sopranos will have another movie or new series? David Chase has talked about it. He see the this is why I didn't make a video on it, because the information we were getting, the public is getting, is, you know, it flip flops. From what I gather, HBO is open to the idea of making a sequel series to The Sopranos prequel movie. Chase is more open to making another movie. So they're in a similar boat where they want the new Sopranos thing to go, which is after the Many Saints of Newark, timeline wise. But it seems they're not really on the same page as to what they want it to be, a movie or TV show. But it seems the hype has kind of died down. I'm not hearing any news recently, really, in the last couple of months or so. Benny Max says, have you ever thought about doing any videos on Narcos or Narcos Mexico? Have you seen them? I haven't, no. I'm aware of them. They are shows that I've thought about watching. It's all just about time, really. Having enough time to watch shows. Movie Junk says, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Lark Bark says, Bronson rules. Yeah, straight up. Great film. Natalia says, I just want to thank you for the details about the Godfather saga. I've never read the books. Your explanation helped me a lot to understand the plot and the ending. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, the books have their qualities as well. You've got the original, obviously, Mario Puzo's. I've not read the Sicilian. It's connected, but it's not quite a Godfather film. I really enjoyed what's his name? See, this is one of the reasons why I don't do live videos, because I always forget things sitting here when I'm in front of the microphone for some reason. Ed Falco. Yeah, sorry, yeah, Ed Falco. I mean, I just interviewed him a few months ago. How can I forget his name? But yeah, he wrote The Family Corleone, the prequel to the Godfather movie and the book. He does it simultaneously. I like that as well. Not a big fan of Mark Weingartner's Godfather sequels book, but the books are really good. The original and the prequel. I'm not a fan of the sequels. Comically High says, you said you are a Lord of the Rings fan. Thoughts on the Amazon series? I saw it in 4K on my friend's TV and it was visually amazing, but boy, that writing. I haven't seen it. It didn't look very appealing to me. I caught one or two of the trailers, and it was actually the trailers that put me off. It was just the look. It just looked very CGI heavy. It didn't look like any of the worlds were real. The actors kind of look like B grade, C grade actors, and I was just like, you know what? If this gets good reviews, I might check it out. But it didn't get good reviews, so I thought, you know what? I'm not gonna subject myself to that. You know, the Hobbit movies were bad enough, you know, but the first three, the Lord of the Rings films, they were brilliant. Let's see. Let's see. Got any thoughts about Peaky Blinders? Yeah, I mentioned in the beginning of the chat that I've seen the first season. I thought it was solid. I haven't continued with the show just yet. Maybe that'll be the next thing I should pick up after Oz. Just start watching Peaky Blinders again. I've heard that a lot of people don't like how it ended, though. That the final season was a letdown. So yeah, if you've seen it, let me know what you guys think of it. Benny Max says, thank you for asking so many questions. Very cool of you. No problem. Let's see. Have you seen Crazy Joe about Joey Gallo? Nope, I don't know what that is. The Sicilian says Resistance Quest is not as much of a page turn as The Godfather, but it's very readable and interesting. Plus, it's based on fact. Definitely worth reading in like 3 days. Yeah, it's on the list. I haven't bought it, but I do want to read it one day. I think, why didn't I read it? I was gonna. Oh yeah, it was spoiled for me. There was something that happens in it. I think I was viewing it on Amazon, and I was just about to buy it, and one of the user reviews said something, and I thought, oh, that gives it away. And I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll wait a long enough time so I forget that I read this comment, and then I might read the Sicilian. So Comically High says, without spoiling, Peaky Blinders went the Boardwalk Empire route. Resistance Quest says, I thought the penultimate season of Peaky was a little off, but the final season was really good generally. Let me see if I've missed any questions. It looks like I've caught up to the chat. Comically High thinks we should leave The Sopranos alone. I mean, what do you guys think? You know, because see, you know, when it comes to The Godfather, I said something in one of my reviews, in one of my videos, where they made the first two films, they were masterpieces. They made the third film, it wasn't that great. It's a good movie, but it's uneven, it has major flaws. And I mentioned that because they kind of ruined it, they've already made a subpar film. When they had plans to make a Godfather 4, I thought to myself, let's just go ahead with it. Because you ruined it anyway. You know, the series is no longer perfect like it was before. So just go ahead, let's see what happens. And the idea for the fourth one was quite interesting. And I think I'm in a similar boat to The Sopranos. Yes, the series is perfect, and Many Saints of Newark was okay at best. But now I'm at a stage where, you know what, since they've done that, since they've gone down that road, they might as well, you know, make a limited series, make 10 episodes showing the rise of Tony Soprano. Have the kid, Michael, play him. You know, bring back Vera Farmiga as the mom. You know, she was great. Why not? You know, what's the worst that could happen? You know, the worst that could happen is it's as bad as Many Saints of Newark, and then we just quietly forget about it. But yeah, I can definitely see the sentiment about just leaving well enough alone. Even the movie, you know, if you watch my interview that I did with Sopranos Theories, I said that my sentiment going into the film, because a lot of fans were crazy about the Sopranos movie. Everybody was talking about it, like, can't believe that we're going to see the rise of young Tony Soprano, all that kind of stuff. Me, I was indifferent. I was like, I don't really care about the Sopranos. I'm a huge fan of the Sopranos, but I don't care about the movie coming out. And part of that was because the series just felt so complete to me. The film felt unnecessary. And because it felt unnecessary for me when I watched it as almost like a separate entity. And because of that, I wasn't that disappointed with it. You know, people were really hyped up, as you'd expect, and it disappointed them. But because I wasn't hyped about it, I wasn't that disappointed. Have you watched Entourage? No, I haven't. Comically High says, did you watch Oppenheimer? What do you think of Nolan's last 3 movies? No, I haven't. I was going to watch it, and then something came up, and I just never got around to it. What are his last 3 movies? I didn't see Tenet. Is Dunkirk is the one before that? Dunkirk was good, I thought. It was okay. What was the one before that? Interstellar? I don't know. I'd have to see what his last 3 films were. I can't remember. HBO's Rome says Chemo Sabe. Yeah, that's one I've thought about a lot, and it's only 2 seasons as well, isn't it? That is one that is on. It's on the list. It's on the list. Sia Resistance Quest. Thank you for stopping by, and I get the reference. Eli Welly says you could do a video on how bad the. Oh, sorry, I can't even see because there's something in the way of the chat. There's a big love heart in the way of how bad Kill the. I thought you said The Irishman. How bad Kill the Irishman. Paul Sorvino was in it. I don't really remember much about it, to be honest. Jonathan Goodboy says, I believe Lorraine Bracco said the intention was for her to be Carmela as opposed to Dr. Melfi, which she fought for. Do you think she'd be better as Carmela, or was she in the right role? Yeah, I heard about that. I heard that they wanted her to play the role of Carmela, but she felt she's already been down this road, and she felt it would be more of a challenge for her to play the doctor, the therapist. And I agree with her, because it would have felt, it would have been hard for The Sopranos to claw itself away from feeling like a Goodfellas imitator, a TV show version of Goodfellas. Especially, already you've got so many actors from Goodfellas. You've got the film being referenced. You've got storylines. The season one, I think, does feel like, hey, we watched Goodfellas and we want to make a TV show out of it. And that would have been more amplified if Lorraine Bracco played the wife of the main gangster, as she did in Goodfellas. It had just been the same again, kind of thing, really. Comically High says, do you have any thoughts on CGI on actors becoming more mainstream? Like, I thought the Irishman CGI was pure cringe. Hope they don't CGI Gandolfini in any other Sopranos IP. Oh, I hope not. Yeah, I don't like this. I'm not in the boat of, I mean, who is, you know? Everybody I talk to, everybody online seems to be in the same boat, that these CGI depictions, this de-aging stuff, and Indiana Jones and Star Wars, it's not great and has a kind of uncanny valley effect. With The Irishman, it was a kind of necessity, because that was the kind of selling point of the film, that it was all these old guys getting together for one last mob picture. And how are we going to make them look young? Oh, we'll use CGI. So you can appreciate the thought, but you know, with something like, say, you know, Indiana Jones, there's no reason to, you know, they have I haven't actually seen the film, but I know there's a flashback scene in the beginning where they show a young Indy. But with things like that, okay, Harrison Ford's 80 years old. Just, if you're going to make the film work around that. Maybe if the technology was good enough, but it isn't yet anyway. So, yeah, I'm in the same boat. Carmela was perfectly cast as Edie Falco, says Jarl Borg. Yeah, I agree. Definitely. She was brilliant. She's probably the second best actor on The Sopranos. Maybe Imperioli? Yeah, no, I'd have to give it to Edie Falco. Kingpin says the Irishman CGI made Harvey Keitel look like he had plastic surgery. Well, I don't know if you guys thought the same, but didn't it look like everybody in the film had really big noses? I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Like, maybe, I don't know, for the tracking or to make the faces look smoother, they had to make everybody's noses bigger. And because they made it bigger in the CGI scenes early on, they had to do it for the later scenes. I don't know. The CGI in The Irishman wasn't amazing, you know, to put it kindly. Even though I am a fan of the film itself. Have you watched Dog Day Afternoon? Yes, great film. Arguably Pacino's best performance. The guy who made it, Sidney Lumet, is one of my favorite film directors. I've seen so many of his films, all the way from 12 Angry Men up until Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. I really like him. He's one of my favorite film directors, and Dog Day Afternoon is probably his best film if you ignore 12 Angry Men. See you later, Benny Mac. Thank you for stopping by. I remember there was a shot where Joe Pesci looked like John Waters. Yeah, it wasn't great at times, was it? It was like that scene, for example, where Frank Sheeran gets called by Angela Bruno, and what you're seeing is Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, and Joe Pesci sitting at a table in the same scene. Now that should be incredible. It should resonate for gangster movie fans, but it didn't really that much for me, because Pesci kind of looked like a cartoon. You know, I thought Keitel looked alright, De Niro looked alright in that scene, But it didn't really feel like to me Joe Pesci was sitting there. I did get that feeling, but later on in the film, when the CGI was minimal and when they stopped using CGI, like Frank Sheeran Appreciation Night, when Al Pacino and Harvey Keitel agreed, that felt like it was those two actors, and it was like, whoa, this is the first time we're seeing these two guys. When Al Pacino and Joe Pesci have their scene, whoa, you know? But I didn't feel that early in the first half of the movie, because obviously the first half of the movie has so much CGI. Comically high says, honestly, could you imagine if The Sopranos of The Wire was shot on digital instead of film? I think I would literally vomit. Yeah, I'm pro film. Um, I'm not an extremist in this fight. You know, I get both sides of the argument, but in general, I do tend to prefer film. There's something about the texture of film whereas digital, there's a separation. It kind of, it's difficult to describe, but there's a warmth that comes with watching things made on film. Digital can replicate it close enough, but that's the thing. It's a replication. It's a intentional imitation. Film is just that. It's just film. Lockbox says, I was very disappointed by The Irishman, although I was impressed by Al Pacino's performance. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I know a lot of people were disappointed by the film. No Tomorrow says, have you ever watched Dr. Robot? No, I haven't. Jonathan Goodboy says, I liked your review of Boys in the Hood. Have you seen Menace to Society? No, I haven't. No. I I I was gonna check out a lot of Hood movies after I watched Boys in the Hood, but I ended up not doing that. So again, it's just, you know, there's so many things out there. Just I just get lost sometimes. I have plans to do certain things, and it just falls. It just gets added to the backlog, really. Who's the actor of our current generation? Says comically high. Is it really Charlemagne or Driver? Well, to be honest, I'm not the person to ask. I haven't seen enough modern films to make a judgment. Most of the films I watch are older films. Like in that video I'm going to release on my second channel, Senior to Uncut, on the films I've seen this month. One of them is new. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. The rest of them are all old films. Uh, Many of them made in the 20th century. So I'm not really the person to ask. I've seen Charlemagne Drive in a few films. I think they're good actors. I wouldn't put them top tier. I don't think from what I've seen. From what I've seen, you know, Drive is great as well. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not really the person to ask, to be honest. Oh, interesting. We've got differing views on Menace to Society. Lockbox says it's a must-watch, whereas Living Jar Cletus says Menace 2 has some great scenes, but it is not a good film. Terrible main character. Interesting. Looks like I've caught up to the chat. Let me see if there's anything I missed. I might be closing up now in the next maybe 15 minutes or so. Just in case you're wondering how long this live stream is going to be. Have you watched HBO's Rome? No, not yet. It is on the list. Favorite Christopher Nolan movie? Asks Samuel Minzy. I don't know. There's a few solid. I liked Insomnia. Insomnia was great. It's kind of like the dark horse of his. You know, it's easy to see why a person like me would like Insomnia, but The Prestige was brilliant. Inception is good. The Dark Knight is fantastic. I liked Interstellar. From a writing point of view, I've got a few issues with some stuff that happens in the end, like the whole thing about love being the only thing that can travel across the whatever that was. But visually, it's a great film. But I like Nolan. He's not a perfect director. He has some issues. If he gave his scripts to someone to touch up, I think his films would be a lot better than they are. But because his characters, for example, sometimes they come off as devices to forward the story, but the human element is lacking. Maybe that's the actor's fault, but it happens enough times in Christopher Nolan's movies where characters feel like they're plot devices that it's probably his fault. But apart from that, every director has their attributes, has their good points, has their flaws, and he has his attributes. So it is what it is. He's a good director. I like his films. El Pipe, sorry, says, do you ever watch any of the Gomorrah series? No, I haven't. It is on the list. It's probably next on the list after Oz. Oz I finished watching, and my reviews are almost ready to come out. In fact, if you're a Patreon or if you're a channel member, you can actually see my review of the first season of Oz. I just released it today on the members and the Patreon. But after Oz, it's probably Gomorrah. Comically High says, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles any good? I love the Spider-Verse art style, but the last Seth Rogen movie I watched was such... Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. I wanted my kids. The kids enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of dialogue that, young children, they won't understand, but as teenagers will find it funny, I think. I find it funny. I had a good time with it. And it felt straight-laced, It was... there was no political correctness or pandering or anything like that. It wasn't like they made one of the turtles a woman, just to kind of to get a bit of diversity or something like that. It was just straight laced. 4 turtles, they kick ass. There is a kind of a morality to it, because the bad guys, they're people who've been shunned by society, but the turtles have also been shunned by society, and they come to different conclusions. So the bad guy wants to kill all humans, then he'll feel he'll be accepted because there are no more humans. And the turtles have to obviously kind of fight that idea. Master Splinter is played by Jackie Chan. We haven't seen him in a while. I know he stars in Chinese movies nowadays, but he hasn't really made anything, any Western movie, and he was good in it. His comedy carried through, even though it was just voice acting. But yeah, it's a good kids film. I thought it was alright. I wouldn't mind if they made another one. Dex X says, what are your thoughts on Game of Thrones, both old and new? Game of Thrones first season I thought was fantastic. Second, third, I think fourth, I can't remember, but the first couple of seasons were great, especially the first. Even as a standalone series, the first one works as a limited show. But then I kind of noticed that, the quality of the writing isn't that great anymore. There's things happening which don't feel like, characters teleporting all over the place, things like that. It did feel like the show was becoming more politically correct when before it was outrageous. I haven't read the books, but I found out that they basically caught up with the books, so they were having to come up with stories by themselves, which is probably why the quality of the writing and the dialogue went down. The dialogue started to feel more modern instead of this kind of, pseudo olden day style way of speaking that characters had in earlier seasons, which made it easier to buy that you're watching some kind of mythical land. But yeah, that's my kind of take. I like the first half of Game of Thrones, didn't like the second. I started to think it was things were getting bad before the final infamous 8th season. So I'm not as much of a hater of that season as a lot of people, because I saw the telltale signs coming before that season even started. I'm shocked that you never made any True Detective season 1 videos, says Comically High. Yeah, that, again, True Detective is another one on the list. Another one that I just never got around to. But it is something I'm looking to do. See you later, Ila Whaley. Thank you for stopping by. Vinny says, I love your videos, mate. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Money June has seemingly discovered my old intro. Comically High says House of the Dragon is awesome though. Yeah, I've heard good things about that. That is a show I want to watch. It is on the list, as are many things discussed in this stream. Have you heard or read the book about the trial between John Lennon and the real Hesh? Asks Jonathan Goodbye. No, I haven't. No, I don't know what that's about. See you later, Comically High. Thank you for stopping by. Larkbog, yeah, true detective. I don't know. What should I? I'm confused. True Detective or Gomorrah? It's probably going to be one of those two. After Oz on the channel. Tulsa King, yeah, I've seen Tulsa King. I've reviewed it. I thought it was okay. It's carried by Stallone's charisma. I thought it's a bit lightweight though, isn't it? It's not really something to be taken as like a show, a mafia show in the same bracket as The Sopranos. I think if you go into it thinking that, you're not gonna have a great time. But if you're looking for something, just to watch on a Saturday afternoon, you've got nothing to do, then yeah, Tulsa King's great, especially if you're a Stallone fan. Yeah, a lot of people are asking for True Detective. Damien Evans definitely have one of the best analysis on crime shows. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for these kind words. They mean a lot. Cancels out all the hate, really, because you get a lot of people hating in the comment section as well. So it's nice when somebody says something nice as well. But yeah, now that I've finished Oz is still fresh, I think, in my mind. And when I release my reviews, and I think I've got about 3 scripts ready for different video ideas aside from the season reviews. I'll see how well they do, how well people respond, if people want to see more after that. And yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. I've got a lot of ideas because Oz has some great storylines, some bad storylines. It has some great characters. Saeed, Vern Schillinger, Beecher, there's a lot going on in Oz that's worth talking about. And if it resonates with audiences, if my subscribers want to see more, then yeah, I'll make more videos on it. But it is the one after that's probably going to be Gomorrah or the first season of True Detective. Definitely, I think, especially after this live stream, it's been the thing that people have been requesting the most. So yeah, I think, guys, I will end the stream now. As long as nobody's got any other questions or anything. Ten Hag. Yeah, I do. I believe in Ten Hag. He's got some flaws. There's a few like, oh come on, there's decisions he's made here and there. Like in the last game, Wolverhampton. I think he played Bruno and Mount too high. I think he assumed that Wolverhampton were going to sit back, but they came and attacked, and that kind of caught us off guard. But I think he's a good manager. He's definitely turned things around way better than Ragnick did or any of the previous managers. And we've won our first trophy in so long. The team's identity looks changed. He's getting rid of a lot of the old deadwood. I like him as a gaffer. I'm a believer in Ten Hag. Earl Pipe says Oz got very weird towards the last season. Yeah, not just the last season. I'll speak about this more in my reviews, but I think halfway through season 4 is where Oz kind of dipped, where it changed. And we all kind of know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a certain storyline they introduced, which was pretty wacky. And from there, things started to go, deranged. But I would say that halfway through season 4, season 4A is when Oz stopped being as good as it was. And the subsequent seasons were nowhere near as great as the earlier stuff. A lot of it felt just like shock factor and how can we shock the audience? But none of it was shocking because it's just shock factor. When a show makes you love a character, makes you feel endeared towards a character, and then kills them off, that's shocking. But when left, right, and center, people are just going to be bumped off every single episode, it's no longer shocking, is it? So yeah, guys, thank you very much for coming on the stream. I didn't announce this or anything. I just kind of haphazardly had a bit of time, so I just opened a stream. It was nice seeing a lot of new faces and new people I haven't spoken to before, asking some great questions, a lot of decent conversations going on. It was nice seeing a lot of the old crowd, people who used to join the chat years ago. It's been more than a year since the last live chat. So yeah, thank you very much. I think I'm going to end it here. See you later, Vinny. See you, DC Lockbark, L Pipe, everybody. See Adabisi leaves. Yeah, I'm ending the chat here. Thank you, Ryan. Hopefully I'll do this sometime soon, but I can't make any promises. See you later, guys. Thank you very much for this.